General Aurora Keene entered the grand atrium of the Galactic Concordia with the poise of a woman who knew exactly how many weapons were hidden in the room and how many smiles were lies. The massive chamber glittered with crystal columns, floating lights, and draped banners that whispered the Empire's ancient motto, "Order above all." Aurora adjusted the cuff of her navy blue coat, brushing away imaginary lint. Her boots echoed softly as she walked the crimson carpet toward the central table, surrounded by representatives of 9 major species of the Galactic Empire. Her aide, Lieutenant Mason, followed 2 steps behind, carefully silent. No one rose to greet her. The Varan Chancellor, a sleek, scaled figure with golden eyes and an air of surgical arrogance, was the first to speak. "Ah, the human delegate. A pleasure delayed is a pleasure nonetheless, is it not?" "Depends on the pleasure," Aurora replied, her voice velvet but firm. "Some things spoil if you wait too long, like treaties or tea." A few of the other delegates chuckled, mostly out of discomfort. The Mrel Spindlemaster clicked her mandibles in distaste. The avian Zevani fluttered their wings nervously, sensors twitching. The CERN delegation didn't move at all, sphinx-like, behind their obsidian masks. Aurora took her seat calmly, folding her hands atop the polished obsidian table. "Shall we begin, or would someone like to publicly doubt my intelligence first?" "It's usually how these start." Chancellor Vorix gave a predatory grin, revealing a row of diamond teeth. "My dear General, you're not here for intelligence. You're here as a symbol." Aurora smiled back, eyes unmoving. "Symbols can burn brighter than ships, Chancellor, especially when lit properly." The room grew just a hair colder. Lieutenant Mason placed a datapad before her and activated the projection. A star map, Earth's colonies marked in soft blue. "The proposal is simple," Aurora began. "Joint demilitarization of contested zones, a ceasefire lasting 3 Earth years, and shared oversight on disputed trade routes through the Orion Maw. In exchange, Earth suspends expansion beyond Sector 6. "You mean Earth agrees to stay in its kennel?" the Mrel delegate hissed. "That's the translation." Aurora didn't look at her. She sipped her tea, instead, chamomile with lavender, Earth standard. "I wouldn't advise poking a sleeping dog unless you're quite sure of your claws." Chancellor Vorix leaned forward. "General Keene, I've studied your species, your brief, brutal history, your volatile instincts. You survived your own extinction several times over. But your empathy is a new development, fragile, inconsistent." "We're learning," Aurora replied. "Faster than you'd like." A long pause followed. The Zevani opened their beak to speak, but hesitated. Vorix waved a claw. "Enough posturing. The Empire has reviewed your proposal. We're prepared to offer you something better. A legacy." He stood. That alone was rare. Even Mason stiffened. "The human military is redundant. Your colonies are peripheral. We believe Earth is better suited to cultural pursuits. Art, philosophy, music, insect cuisine." Aurora tilted her head. "Are you offering us retirement?" "A sanctuary status," he said smoothly. "Protected, honored, irrelevant." Mason's knuckles tightened behind her. Aurora's expression didn't change. She picked up the teapot, poured herself a fresh cup. "I once knew a man who tried to cage a lion, called it preserving a species. You know what happened?" "No." She waited until he opened the door, then ate his arms. Vorix's grin returned a little wider. "I think not, General. I think you're bluffing. I think Earth fears another war. And I think this performance." His hand moved faster than most would register. A hidden slot on his wrist revealed a compact, Imperial-grade plasma disruptor. The flash was blue and silent. The shot hit Aurora squarely in the chest. Mason shouted. The table erupted. Screams, claws scraping, weapons raised. Aurora's body fell back in her chair, teacups spilling over her coat. Steam mingled with the smell of seared cloth and skin. "Dead." The Mrel began laughing, high and rapid. "So falls the lioness," she sang, bleeding tea and pride. Mason was restrained by 2 guards, red-faced and cursing, but didn't resist further. His eyes locked on Aurora's still form glassy-eyed. He didn't blink. Chancellor Vorix sat back down, adjusting his sleeve with casual grace. "A shame," he said to the others, "but necessary. Earth needs to understand its place." The room buzzed, confusion, panic, whispers about protocol. Murdering a delegate at a peace summit was, well, unprecedented. But few seemed ready to oppose the act. Until Aurora sat up. It was subtle at first. A twitch of fingers. A slight lift of the chin. Then, with complete calm, she straightened in her seat. Her coat smoked gently from a hole over her heart. Her expression was unchanged. The laughter stopped. She reached for her teacup, found it broken, and sighed. "Well," she said, brushing herself off. "That was rude." The room froze. Vorix stood again, slower this time. "What are you?" Aurora looked down at the hole in her chest, poked a finger through it. "Experimental armor. Integrated trauma stasis. Little Earth invention. Activated the moment I died. Technically, I'm still dead. Just walking it off." The Mrel shrieked. "Impossible. No tech could." Aurora stood. "You'll find that word becomes obsolete when dealing with humans. We specialize in it." Guards raised weapons. She held up one hand. "Oh no. Please. Try again. I could use a second cup of tea." Her voice hadn't risen once. No anger. No fear. Only quiet precision. Mason, wide-eyed, whispered, "I thought the armor was untested." Aurora glanced back. It was. Worked nicely. Chancellor Vorix backed a step. "You planned for this." She gave a small smile. "Of course we did. You thought we came here hoping for peace. We came here measuring your courage. You failed." The lights flickered. A distant hum shifted pitch. The walls pulsed. Aurora looked up as something distant clicked into place. "That was the first signal," she said. "I do hope your evacuation drills are current." Panic spread like blood in water. The Mrel climbed over her own chair. The Zevani burst into flight. The Cern remained seated, contemplative, the only ones who didn't move. Aurora watched the chaos calmly. Then she turned back to Vorix, who was now holding the blaster with both hands, shaking. "Your mistake," she said gently, "was thinking kindness meant weakness. We gave you a chance. One." "I'm not afraid of you," Vorix spat. "You should be." A faint tone sounded, a sharp, crystalline beep that only the humans seemed to recognize. Aurora tapped her wrist twice. The projector on the table sparked, glitching, then displayed a new image. Earth's fleet, uncloaked, in orbit, surrounding the station. 30 warships, silent, still, and armed. Aurora stepped around the table, her hand brushing Mason's shoulder as she passed. He followed, eyes wet, jaw clenched. "Where are you going?" one of the delegates cried. She didn't look back. "I have another meeting. With your weapons systems. They've been terribly unsociable." The doors opened. She paused at the threshold, turned slightly. "Do send word to your Empress. Tell her Earth will respond formally soon. Probably not with words." Then she was gone. Behind her, the room erupted in motion. Orders shouted. Weapons drawn. Accusations flung. But all of it was too late. The trap had already been sprung, and the lioness had risen. Outside, Earth's fleet began to move. Not with noise or posturing, but with the silent grace of something that had waited too long to be underestimated. And deep in the ship systems, a timer began to count down. Aurora walked the corridor with the unhurried grace of a woman for whom every second ticked according to plan. Behind her, the Empire's grand atrium descended into chaos. Security scrambling, dignitaries shouting, alarms too slow to matter. Ahead of her lay the heart of the flagship, and with it, the unraveling of everything the Galactic Empire believed was safe. Lieutenant Mason matched her pace, though his heart raced like thunder. "Ma'am," he whispered, eyes darting to surveillance nodes lining the ceiling. "The fleet's in position, but we're still on the ship. If they won't fire until I give the signal," Aurora said calmly. "And I won't give it until the chessboard is fully set." Mason swallowed, nodded once. He didn't question her judgment. No one who had served under Aurora Keene ever questioned it twice. They passed two security drones frozen mid-hover, their lights blinking red, confused by new protocols quietly rewritten just moments before. Human operatives had slipped on board a week ago, dressed as Empire custodians, diplomats, cooks. No gunfire, no threats. Just polite infiltration and scheduled sabotage. Aurora rounded a corner and entered the main comms corridor, a hallway she'd memorized down to the patterns in the floor tiles. Her boots made no sound. The lighting flickered again as subtle pulses of human-engineered viruses gnawed at the Empire's ship-wide AI. A technician stepped out from a side door, blinking at them. He was young, avian, from the Zevani caste, feathers still molting, wings folded with nervous formality. "You're not supposed to be here," he said, voice soft and trill-toned. "I am now," Aurora replied, then smiled. The technician's eyes widened. He recognized her too late. A flash of metal. Mason moved with precision honed in too many quiet wars. A soft thud, a collapsing body. They dragged him into a supply closet, not out of cruelty, but convenience. 3 witnesses now, Mason muttered. "They'll vanish when the logs vanish." "Prioritize the mission," Aurora said, checking her wrist display. Time remaining, 11 minutes. The flagship's comms tower loomed ahead, locked behind a triple-sealed door. Aurora produced a thin glass card and pressed it to the console. The door sighed open like a dragon waking. Inside, the air was cold. 8 alien technicians froze mid-task. A few reached for weapons, too slowly. The humans already inside neutralized them with tranquil darts and polite apologies. "Room's clear," said Agent Liu, folding her arms. She wore a black suit with a red lapel pin shaped like a stylized oak leaf, Earth's intelligence marker. "Comms control is yours, General." Aurora stepped into the center of the chamber. Her fingers traced the edges of the primary broadcast interface, brushing off alien fingerprints. She turned to Mason. "Activate the relay. Let's begin the speech." A screen lit up. Entire quadrants of the Empire would see her now. News networks, military feeds, civilian channels. Aurora Keene, with a hole still burned into her coat, stood under the Empire's seal and adjusted her collar like she was preparing for afternoon tea. "People of the galaxy," she began. "You don't know me." "Not really." Silence rippled through systems. One by one, channels locked into her voice, her image. "I'm General Aurora Keene of Earth, and I died today, briefly. It wasn't my first time. Somewhere on a luxury moon resort, a noble spit out his drink. In a mining colony, a worker dropped his tool. In the Imperial Palace, an aide rushed to shut down the feed, and failed. Earth's algorithms were already inside. I came here for peace. That's what I said. It's what I meant. But peace requires trust, and trust requires respect. Today, your empire showed me neither." Aurora paced slowly, letting each word carry weight. Her voice never rose. There was no anger in it, just the chill of clarity. "My species, we smile. We offer hands. We sing lullabies, we paint sunsets, we write poems about love and death. You called that weakness. You misunderstood." Behind her, a screen played footage, grainy recordings of Earth's history. Hiroshima, Black Saturday, the fall of Atlas Station, the child martyrs of Europa Prime. You see our art and forget our rage. You see our tears and forget we evolved from hunters who invented knives before we knew math. In a quiet control room on the planet Velmer, an alien soldier whispered, "She's telling a ghost story." "She's issuing a warning," replied his commander. Aurora looked directly into the camera. "You killed a diplomat today, and not just any diplomat. You assassinated a general trained to lead extinction-level strikes. You didn't remove a threat. You lit a fuse." She paused. "Breathe in. And now I am returned. Which means you failed. Not just at murder, but at war." A second screen lit up. The Imperial flagship's internal schematics, entire sections now glowing red. "I'd like to tell you this was spontaneous. An accident. I'd like to believe in forgiveness. But the truth is," her fingers danced across the panel, Doors sealed. Systems locked. We planned for this. Years ago. Before the last summit. Before the last apology. In a hidden bay, metal walls peeled back. Human soldiers emerged in sleek armor, soundless and swift. The ship had been infiltrated long before the peace talks began. They didn't fire. Not yet. They moved like shadows, claiming the arteries of the vessel, without a word. Aurora's voice softened, almost kind. Earth believes in second chances. But we also believe in deterrence. And the best deterrents are theatrical. Mason looked at the countdown. Time remaining, 6 minutes. On screen, several alien delegates tried to shut down the broadcast. Others argued. Some begged. "Why are you doing this?" cried one. "This will start a war." Aurora answered without hesitation. "You already did." The camera shifted. Now the fleet outside appeared. Human ships surrounding the Concordia, elegant in their silence. No posturing. No comms blaring threats. Just patient engines and open weapons bays. "This is not war," she said. "This is a message. We could reduce this vessel to atoms in 14 seconds. But we won't. Not yet." Somewhere aboard the ship, Chancellor Vorix heard her voice echo through the hallways, and something inside him finally cracked. Aurora looked back at Mason. "How's the package?" "Uploading. ETA 3 minutes." "Good. Begin extraction protocol." Mason tapped his device. Across the ship, the infiltrators began retreating, not in panic, but in perfect timing. Aurora remained. Back in the atrium, Chancellor Vorix burst in, flanked by 2 elite guards. He was breathing hard now, angry, uncertain. He saw her on the screen, saw the calm, the small smile, and realized, finally, who had truly set the stage. "You orchestrated all this," he whispered. "You let me kill you." She responded without turning. "I hoped you wouldn't. But I planned for when you did." He screamed. "This is madness. It's suicide." "Then you don't understand us at all," Aurora murmured. The countdown ticked. 1 minute. The data package finalized. A cascading worm infecting the Empire's communication grids. It didn't destroy. It rewrote. Truth seeded everywhere. Records of betrayals, assassinations, hidden treaties broken. The kind of knowledge that shattered legitimacy. Aurora took one last look at the camera. "I will leave this ship. You may chase me. You may lie to your people. But they won't believe you anymore." The feed cut. Aurora turned away from the console and faced Mason. "Ready." "Always, ma'am." They moved fast now, no longer hiding. Her soldiers rejoined them at checkpoints. The Empire's defenders were too slow, too stunned. Doors sealed behind them with a whisper of finality. At the escape hangar, a shuttle waited. One of their own, refitted to look like Empire standard. Aurora stepped aboard. The doors sealed. Course. Rendezvous with fleet. Will be cloaked in under 4 seconds. She strapped in. The ship thrummed. As they lifted off, the Grand Concordia loomed behind them, a temple of false diplomacy now laid bare. Her image had gone out to billions. Not just a face. A warning. And still, she was not smiling. Not yet. But deep inside her coat, tucked near her heart, was a second flask of tea, intact. She poured it into a steel cup with careful hands, took a long sip, and whispered, "That's better." The pilot didn't speak, but the grin spreading across his face was unmistakable. In 37 systems, Empire citizens sat frozen. Some in fear, some in awe, but all beginning to understand. The humans hadn't declared war. They'd made a statement, and the next act was already in motion. The broadcast did not end when Aurora left the ship. It grew. What had begun as a single controlled speech became a wildfire, fed by hidden code laced into the Empire's own communication satellites. The human worm, a construct of poetic irony and surgical precision, climbed through systems and mirrored itself in every quadrant. It couldn't be erased, couldn't be blocked, and worst of all, it kept playing. On every screen, her calm face returned. The blood-stained coat, the faint scarring on her collarbone, the steady gaze that belonged to someone who had stared at death and decided it wasn't interesting enough to keep her down. I'm not here to frighten you, Aurora's voice said softly, her image echoing in the grand halls of the Varan Palace, in the neon-lit shelters of mining rings, in floating cafes and military bases. Fear is what you already feel. I'm here to clarify why. In the palace, the Empress of the Empire sat stone-faced, her lower eyes closed in denial, while the upper pair trembled with rage. Around her, aides buzzed like frightened bees, attempting to shut down systems they no longer controlled. She's speaking again, one barked. We've looped firewall resets. She's inside the relay chains, another interrupted. We'd have to wipe half the Empire's data grid to even slow her. The Empress leaned forward. So do it. The aide hesitated. With respect, Your Grace, that would take us back to pre-network functionality. 2 centuries lost. Hospitals, transports, commerce. Then the damage is already done, she hissed. What did Earth send into our veins? No one had an answer. On a fringe colony, a schoolteacher watched the footage in silence, children at her feet frozen with wide eyes. On a battleship near the Orion Maw, a captain turned away from her bridge, her hands shaking. In the rusting ghettos of Gorovi 6, a beggar laughed until he cried. Aurora's voice was not loud. It was not angry, but it was absolute. You believed we were new. That Earth was a flicker, an accident, something primitive and hopeful. But humanity is not new. We are very, very old. We have forgotten more wars than your empire has recorded. And we are good at forgetting. It keeps the hand steady. The speech played on a loop, but it wasn't repetition. Each iteration revealed new footage, new fragments. Her words adapted to each region, each language. A tailor-made horror. Some messages played in rhyme, others as riddles. One appeared as a lullaby sung by an old woman. Another as a chess tutorial, always ending with the same phrase. We warned you. You asked to see our truth. And then, a single moment from her speech, the one no one could watch without feeling the temperature in the room drop. Aurora had paused, looked directly into the lens, and said, There's no such thing as a harmless species. Only one whose teeth you haven't seen yet. The footage shifted. Not from Earth, but from Empire archives. Footage long suppressed. Atrocities, colonial betrayals, treaties broken and rewritten in real time. Data Earth should not have had. But there it was. Sorted. Labeled. Time-stamped. Mason, aboard the command ship Foresight, leaned back in his chair and exhaled. The files are spreading faster than projected. 39 systems compromised. Correction, said Agent Liu, monitoring console data with unsettling calm. 41. New reports confirm. The CERN have begun evacuating their capital. They're citing internal instability. Aurora stood beside them, arms crossed. Not triumphant, not smug, just resolute. They'll blame us, Mason said. They always would have, Aurora replied. But this time, they'll do it with their people watching. She turned to the main display. Across the stars, protests had erupted. Not for or against Earth, but against the Empire. Citizens once fed on propaganda now watched their leaders stammer, dodge, and outright lie. The CERN ambassador publicly resigned. The Zevani called for an emergency conclave. The Mrel sent a demand for parley, laced with panic. The Varan stayed silent, which was louder than a scream. We don't have long before they try something reckless, Mason said. Good, Aurora replied. Let them. He blinked. You want them to escalate? I want them to expose themselves. As many times as they're willing. The galaxy can survive war. What it doesn't survive is trust lost. Behind her, the speech's final verse played again, reworded in a style specific to the reptilian Varan dialect. You thought us soft, but silk can cut. You thought us slow, but patience is a trap disguised as mercy. Aurora walked to the observation deck, where the void stretched beyond the glass like a mirror too big to ever fill. She sipped from a fresh cup of tea, the same steel flask nestled beneath her coat. Mason joined her, quieter now. You were right. They took the shot. They didn't hesitate. They never do. Does it bother you? That you counted on it. Aurora's eyes stayed on the stars. It bothers me that they were predictable. I hoped they wouldn't be. He nodded, waited. After a long moment, he said, "Some of the fleet captains want to strike. Now, hit a military world. Make it real." "It's already real," she replied. "But tell them to wait. We're not done showing restraint." A soft chime interrupted them. Agent Lou spoke from the console. "Incoming transmission. Source unknown. Routing through 8 ghost relays. It's encrypted, but Earth standard." Aurora turned, calm but suddenly alert. "Put it through." The screen lit up, revealing a man in civilian clothes. His face was unassuming, graying hair, slight scar across the brow. He looked like someone's favorite uncle. But his eyes were black as voids. "Keen," he said, voice rough like it had been borrowed from gravel. "You made quite a mess." Aurora blinked, then smirked faintly. "Director Rafe. Didn't think you'd crawl out of the shadows this early." "I don't crawl. I supervise. And when generals hijack galactic networks, I start asking if the leash snapped." Mason looked away, as if witnessing something private. Aurora didn't blink. Earth authorized the mission. Contingencies were expected. "Contingencies don't involve destabilizing an empire on a Thursday afternoon," Rafe growled. "Do you know how many panic treaties are being drafted because of you?" "Yes," she said evenly. "And every single one is better than the silence they fed us for 10 years. Rafe was quiet. Then he smiled. "It wasn't kind. You're lucky you're good at this." "I'm not lucky," Aurora replied. "I'm angry." "That's very different." He nodded. "Then finish it. Clean. Controlled. No martyrs." "Wouldn't dream of it." The call ended. Mason exhaled slowly. "He terrifies me." "He terrifies everyone," Aurora replied. "That's why we keep him behind a desk." Outside, a Varan dreadnought changed course. A small fleet followed. Aurora watched the shift like a cartographer reading the future. "They're regrouping," Mason said. "Probably trying to bait us into reacting." Aurora's eyes narrowed. "Then we won't react." "Not yet." Instead, she walked back into the central chamber, where the Human War Council waited, commanders, diplomats, operatives. Each one quiet, focused, and very tired. She faced them with the confidence of someone who no longer had time for ceremony. "The speech worked," she said. "They're bleeding trust. But bleeding isn't dead." "We've cracked their comms architecture," Lou reported. "We can mimic any Empire signal now. Could spoof a surrender. Or an invasion. Hold it. I want them guessing." The Admiral frowned. "Ma'am, with respect, if we wait too long, someone innocent's going to get caught in the fire." Aurora turned. "If we move too fast, we become the fire. This war isn't about death. It's about truth. And truth only wins when it takes its time." They didn't cheer. They didn't clap. But every one of them stood straighter. She stepped away. Alone again. As leaders often are. Back in her quarters, she unbuttoned the coat and examined the burn where the blaster had hit her. The armor underneath had melted, but only on the surface. The tech was brilliant, but it hadn't saved her. Planning had. She sat down at the desk, opened an old-fashioned notebook, real paper, and wrote a single sentence. They believed in silence. We gave them a voice. Outside her viewport, the stars remained silent. But in every corner of the Empire, that silence had begun to crack. And it was only the third day. The silence in the war chamber felt like the breath before a plunge. Deep, measured, final. Aurora stood at the center of it, hands folded behind her back, the weight of 3 billion eyes pressing from the stars beyond. The table before her projected the Empire's current deployments in cool, clinical blue. Ships circled colonies like leashes. Dreadnoughts loomed over trade corridors. Checkpoints blinked red where defectors had begun to rise. But the most telling color was the white fog spreading from Earth's Phantom Fleet, now positioned across 4 major sectors. They hadn't fired. They hadn't needed to. "I gave them every chance," she said, her voice low, threading through the gathered officers. 3 broadcasts. 4 open transmissions. 9 diplomatic channels. They responded with half-truths and fleet movements. Mason nodded grimly. And now, she stared at the map. Now, we finish the performance. She walked to the side console and tapped in a command. A series of marked targets appeared, strategic nodes, relay stations, weapons platforms. Not cities. Never civilians. She would not descend to that level. Confirm priority, said Lou, already moving to sync the commands to fleet relays. Aurora exhaled once. Execute Operation Epitaph. The room hummed. In orbit over the broken moon of Car Silva, 3 Empire dreadnoughts detected movement before their sensors died. Earth's warships shifted into view, sleek, dark, quiet. Within 6 seconds, coordinated EMP bursts turned the dreadnoughts to drifting metal. Crew evacuated before they could fire a shot. On the border world of Nazcari Prime, Empire defenses prepared for a ground invasion. Instead, Earth's ships launched pods, medical, food, communications. The colonists opened them to find recordings. Aurora, explaining why the Empire was being dismantled from within. Everywhere Earth moved, it moved without shouting. Every strike was precise. Every silence, deafening. Aurora watched the reports roll in with the steady calm of someone who had memorized the war before it began. Mason stepped beside her. We have a request from the CERN delegation. They're offering to testify. Take it, Aurora said. Give them protection. Let their people know we didn't come for conquest. And the Varan? Still pretending to be in control. They'll move next. Their pride won't allow silence. Prediction. Aurora turned to him, her eyes like steel under frost. They'll come for me. Personally. They think it'll send a message. He hesitated. And will it? Yes, she said. Just not the one they want. Hours later, aboard the Varan strike cruiser Talon's Word, Chancellor Vorix stood before his war council, clawed hands clenched behind his back. She humiliates us, he growled, his tail lashing. A corpse who climbed back up and now dictates our stars. She bleeds sympathy, his advisor warned. Even from our own citizens. Vorix slammed a fist into the table. Then we burn the sympathy. We show the galaxy what happens when prey bears fangs. He leaned forward, eyes narrowed. Bring her to me. The Talon's Word launched within the hour. Its cloaking fields, ancient and refined, folded it into the background of light. It jumped across sectors in a blink, heading straight for the relay station where Earth's command was believed to operate. But Earth had known. Aurora stood alone in the observatory tower of Relay Point 14, surrounded by nothing but glass and stars. She'd chosen this place for the view, and because it had only one entrance. When the Varan boarders came, they found her waiting. No armor, no fleet, just Aurora Keene in her dark blue coat, sipping tea beside a long window overlooking nothing. Vorix stepped forward, plasma blade hissing in his hand. You're very brave, he sneered. Or very foolish. I find those two often overlap, Aurora replied, turning to face him. You're alone. By design. He studied her. You think your death will make you a martyr? I think my death already happened, she said. You were there. You just didn't notice what it did to the world. He raised the blade. This time, there won't be a second breath. She set her cup down. And this time, she said softly, I brought a mirror. The window behind her shimmered and vanished. Not glass. A screen. And behind it, the entire War Council of the Varan, patched in live by Earth's digital espionage. Their faces lined with horror. Their leaders watching Vorix, weapon raised, about to commit an act that would forever damn them. He froze. Aurora stepped closer, unarmed, unflinching. You wanted fear, she said. But fear comes from seeing yourself. You killed a diplomat. You tried again. And now the galaxy sees not a ruler, but a bully who failed to recognize the storm he provoked. He trembled. You engineered this. Of course. This is entrapment. No, she said. This is education. Vorix dropped the blade. Aurora stepped past him. You can run back to your council. Or you can stay and make the last mistake. He fled. Not with a scream, but with silence, the silence of something that finally understood it was prey. Aurora looked into the empty room, then tapped her wrist. A signal beamed across every Earth ship. Begin final phase. In less than 20 minutes, Earth shut down the Empire's weapons relays. Hackers disarmed battalions mid-flight. Old treaties were resurrected, edited, and enforced under Earth's oversight. It wasn't conquest. It was control. Elegant. Surgical. Final. Aurora stood once more on the Foresight's deck, watching as sector after sector flickered from blue to gray. Neutralized. Freed. Mason joined her, silent. She turned slowly to him, and for the first time since the atrium, she looked tired. Not in body, but in soul. He stepped closer. You okay? She nodded, just remembering. Those 27 seconds. She nodded again. He waited. She finally spoke. It wasn't the pain, or the silence. It was the realization that they'd expected me to stay dead. That they thought 27 seconds would erase what I am. Mason exhaled. And what are you, ma'am? She looked out at the stars. I'm the echo they can't silence. I'm the mistake they didn't think through. I'm the answer to the question they never should have asked. Behind them, the comms pinged. Empire ambassadors. Defections. Surrenders. Pleas for alliance. Lou entered, quiet as ever. The Empire's formal armistice is drafted. They're calling it the Keen Accord. Aurora raised a brow. That's dramatic. It's accurate. She took the datapad, scanned it, then handed it back. Tell them I'll sign it. But only after they rebuild what they broke. And they'll do it under Earth supervision. Yes, ma'am. As Lou left, Mason lingered. Do you think this is it? Aurora smiled softly. No. It's just the first time they've listened. They stood there, together, as Earth's fleet dimmed its weapons and began to beam supplies instead of threats. The stars no longer watched in fear, but in awe. And far away, on a quiet moon where children played in dust and light, the broadcast played one final time, just loud enough for history to remember. I was dead for 27 seconds. And in that time, I remembered every child we buried, every ship we lost, every treaty we honored. So when I stood back up, I did it with purpose. And with purpose, we never fall. The signal ended, and the silence that followed belonged to Earth.